Put your phone down for 1 second and look at your apartment or your rental. Now consider this. Every payment you make is building someone else's wealth and not your own. With the average Orange County rent, including apartments, at just under $2,000 a month, you're handing over more than 23 grand a year that you're never going to see again. I know what you're thinking. I can't afford a down payment on $1 million house. And I thought the same thing too back in 2010 before I bought my first house. I'm Chase with the Whitney Team and First Team Real Estate here in Orange County, California, and today I'm going to share 3 specific strategies that help me and dozens of my clients escape the rental trap even with modest incomes and minimal savings. Here's something that most landlords aren't going to tell you. That $2,000 rent check is just the start, and that's including all property types, including 1-bedroom apartments, even in Orange County. Let me show you the real math. When you rent, you're not just paying for the roof over your head. You're covering property taxes, maintenance, and your landlord's mortgage and their profits. Yet you walk away with nothing to show for it at the end of your lease. Over a year, that's over $23,000 vanishing into someone else's pocket. Now compare that to buying. In March of 2025, the median home price in Orange County hit $1.2 million, and that sounds intimidating. But when you look at more affordable starter home options, a mortgage payment on some of those homes are likely comparable to rent, except you're building equity and not losing it. Imagine renting for 5 years. You're spending $125,000 with nothing to show for it. Compared to purchasing a townhome for $600,000 in the same 5 years, you'll likely have $165,000 in equity appreciation, not even including your principal reduction payments on top of that. Rent increases here in Orange County also outpace salary growth by almost 2 to 1. Landlords raise rent an average of 5% yearly, while local wages grow at about 2.5%. That gap means you're losing ground every year without even realizing it. The Aspen Institute also found that homeowners' net worth is almost 40 times higher than renters, not because they earn more money, but because they're not throwing it away on rent. There's a powerful tool called the Rule of 20. If a home costs more than 20 times annual rent, renting might make sense. Right now, Orange County's median home price across all types, including coastal, is $1.2 million, while annual rent is around $23,000. That's a ratio of 52, way over the Rule of 20. Sounds like renting wins, right? But not so fast. The numbers don't factor in equity growth, tax benefits, or rent hikes. Home prices here rose 12.4% last year alone. And if that continues, that $1.2 million home could be worth $1.35 next year while rents climb higher. And here's the kicker. Renting locks you into a cycle where your biggest expense never stops growing. Buying freezes your biggest cost, which is your mortgage, while your investment grows. I've seen clients stuck in apartments for years, watching rents double while they save for the down payment that keeps slipping further and further away. Meanwhile, buyers who jumped in 5 years ago now have 6-figure equity cushions. Look at it this way. Every rent payment is a lost opportunity. That $2,000 rent payment could be going towards your own asset instead of someone else's. Even with high prices, a mortgage lets you recapture part of your payment through equity. Rent just disappears. This doesn't mean that buying is right for everyone though. We're going to cover a few exceptions later, but in Orange County's market, renting long-term is like running on a financial treadmill. You're working and working and working, but you're not going anywhere. The Rule of 20 might suggest renting, but real life shows that waiting often costs more. Next, I'm going to show you why you don't need 20% to break free from the renting cycle. Here's a pretty common myth. That 20% down payment rule you've heard about, it keeps more renters stuck than almost anything else. Here's the reality. You don't need anywhere near that much to buy a home in Southern California. Then while the median home price in Orange County is $1.2 million, people might assume they need $240,000 for a down payment. But that's just not how most buyers are doing it. Let's break down your actual options. FHA loans only require 3.5% down, just $42,000 on that same $1.2 million home. VA loans for veterans could be as low as 0% down. Right now, we have a buyer closing on a $700,000 townhome in Anaheim with 100% financing, no down payment at all. They're moving at the end of May with less cash out of pocket than their old security deposit. Data shows that most Orange County buyers put down less than 10% overall. Why is that? Because waiting to save 20% often costs more in the long run. Take that $1.2 million home again, appreciating at 5% annually. That's $60,000 in equity the first year alone. Meanwhile, someone saving $240,000 over 5 years would need to save an extra $4,000 a month just to keep pace with appreciation. It's just not feasible, which is why you've likely heard people say it's almost impossible to outsave the market. Moving on to PMI, the mortgage insurance you pay for smaller down payments. On that same home with 5% down or $60,000, PMI might run about $400 per month. It sounds steep until you realize that Orange County rents increased almost $200 per month last year alone. Over 5 years, PMI might cost you $24,000, but you've already paid $140,000 more in rent during that time with, again, nothing to show for it. Local programs also come into effect here. The Orange County Housing Finance Trust offers down payment assistance up to $100,000 for income-qualified buyers. First-time buyers can also combine this with FHA loans, sometimes getting into homes with just a few $1,000s. The break-even point also matters. With 5% down on our $1.2 million example, your mortgage payment might be $300 more than renting a comparable property. But factor in tax deductions and principal reduction, and you're actually paying less monthly to own after year 3. Wait 5 years and you've built 6 figures in equity instead of handing it over to your landlord. The truth is, tons of buyers put down less than 20%. In today's market, that's the smart play. Get in with what you have, when you can, let your appreciation work for you, and refinance out of the PMI once you hit 20% equity. Next, I'll show you why your first home shouldn't be your dream home, and how a modest starter can unlock the market faster than you think. The biggest mistake I see first-time home buyers make, they're looking for their forever home right out of the gate. I get it. You watch HGTV constantly, you've been dreaming about that perfect kitchen, great schools, and the backyard oasis. But here's the truth. The average person owns 5 homes in their lifetime, me included. Your first home isn't your final stop, it's your launch pad. I started with a $200,000 condo in a pretty rough part of Anaheim back in 2012. The community had a pool and good parking, but it was hardly updated. Pretty run-of-the-mill. But here's what I did have. Enough to scrape together a small down payment that secured the purchase. 2 years later to the day, that appreciation and forced savings gave me enough equity to buy a townhome in Cypress that was, for lack of better words, a dump. We put in sweat equity, new floors, fresh paint, and 2 years after that, we traded up again. This time into a large single-family home that again was a complete fixer. And finally, we parlayed that one more time, and now we are in our forever home. But it took 3 stepping stones to get there. Let's compare 2 paths. Option 1, you wait 10 years for that dream home with the white picket fence. Option 2, you buy a $650,000 starter condo this year. Even with just 5% appreciation, that first home builds over $120,000 in equity in just 4 years, money you can roll into your next purchase. The numbers here just don't lie. Orange County home prices rose over 12% last year, an almost $150,000 increase on a $1.2 million home. Meanwhile, the median renter saves about $5,000 annually. At that rate, it would take nearly 30 years to save up what appreciation delivers in just one good cycle. I've seen clients stuck in the analysis paralysis here for years, watching prices climb higher and higher while they keep waiting for perfection. The ones who did buy their modest starter 5 years ago, they're now sitting on 6 figures worth of equity. There's power in the starter mindset. Look for homes that might need cosmetic updates or sit on busier streets. These undervalued properties let you buy into better neighborhoods. The key here is understanding that equity compounds faster than your savings. Every principal payment builds your net worth, and appreciation multiplies that effect. If your starter home only appreciates 3% annually, that's almost $20,000 a year on that $650,000 home. Money that's working for you instead of just disappearing into your landlord's account. Don't fall into the trap of thinking that your first home must check every box. What matters is getting into the property ladder in a home that fits your current needs with room to grow. Maybe it's a condo that you can keep as a rental later, or a townhome near a good school district. The important part is starting where you can afford, because every month you wait is another $2,000 or more spent on rent with zero return. Lastly, we're going to talk about situations where renting might actually make more sense, because despite everything we've covered, buying isn't always the right move for everyone. There are situations when renting actually puts you ahead financially. The key is understanding when temporary renting makes strategic sense for your situation. Take the price to rent ratio, a simple way to compare costs. When the ratio is higher than 20, renting often wins. Career timing also matters. Medical residents, law associates, and military personnel often benefit from renting during uncertain early career phases. A recent USC study found professionals who rent during training years build more equity than peers who buy prematurely. The average resident changes cities 2.3 times during training, each move costing homeowners quite a bit in transaction fee. Tools like NerdWallet's rent versus buy calculator help run your personal numbers. Input your local rents, target home price, and expected tenure. The calculator factors in investment returns, tax deductions, and even inflation. The bottom line, renting wins when your timeline is short, career is mobile, or lifestyle demands flexibility. If you're planning to stay less than about 4 to 5 years or facing major life changes, that lease might be smarter than a mortgage. The key is calculating your break-even point, because nobody else's rules apply to your unique situation. After all this, here's the truth. Renting offers flexibility while buying builds equity, long-term stability, and generational wealth. Each choice shapes your financial future. Wealth isn't just about your income. It's about how you direct your housing dollars. Every payment either vanishes or creates value and wealth. For some, renting is a smart temporary move. For others, buying now is the path towards building wealth. Now that you're armed with all the facts, it's time to take control of your housing future. As always, reach out to us today and we can work out a plan together to get you on the right path that makes the most sense for you and your future.